Hello YouTube, Floppy Waffles 69 here, and welcome back to the channel, guys. Sorry for a little bit of a delay. Was making rather merry during Thanksgiving with myself, my wife, and my family. But I am back, and lo and behold, the new update has dropped, which is update 14.11, which I'm sure all of you are aware of that by now. But some of you are probably asking the question whether or not the 3,500 doubloon price for the battle pass, is it worth it? Is it worth spending that? I'm sure a lot of you would rather be spending that doubloons or money on, Santa crates or something like that. But, the battle pass has kind of sneaked its way in here for a little bit of an inflated cost. And I believe throughout now into the end of this update, maybe into the next update, I can't remember exactly. There's actually 2 event passes going on where the highlight for each battle pass are the ships. You have the Nurnberg 44, which is what we are going to be doing a review on today, determining whether or not is it worth it. And the next one is like the Langzhou or some shit like that. Both at tier 7, both known to have quite potent guns, though the armor leaves much to be desired. But then again, which tier 7 cruiser really doesn't have that? You know what I mean? When we're talking cruiser, especially middle to lower tier, not a whole lot of them have meaningful armor, and they don't really do a whole lot. Given the fact that the Nurnberg 44 is based off of the tier 6 Nurnberg, I'm sure most of us are aware that the Nurnberg loves to eat citadels and has no armor whatsoever. And that does carry true up to tier 7, where the Nurnberg 44 has been bumped up. Now you're asking yourself, now why did Wargaming bump this up to tier 7? And obviously, like they always like to do, they like to, mess around with a little bit of the stats, maybe add consumables here and there, and kind of alter the gameplay to make it even more effective. And matter of fact, they have done a very good job at doing that. The Nurnberg 44 does pick up the short burst smoke screens, like you see like on the daring line, for example. It also picks up really ridiculously good AP penetration. These are very similar to Elbing penetrations at certain ranges, and we will be going into more depth on that as we get later on in the video. But I cannot stress to you enough, in the short little condensed video, if you don't want to watch the whole review of the Nurnberg 44, what is my opinion on the Nurnberg 44? I love this ship. I think this is a great ship. Very fun. It kind of revitalizes a lot of that middle tier cruiser gameplay for a lot of players, because you're actually going to get a lot of performance out of your armor piercing. If it isn't just going to be raw damage, but especially against enemy cruisers where you're going to be eating those juicy citadels or delivering those juicy citadels to the enemy with these 150mm guns. I really do like the performance of this ship, but this ship does have a few little quirks that I think you should know about. And it's going to help you in battle when it comes to either fighting against the Nurnberg 44 or if you are playing the Nurnberg 44. So without further ado, let's get into this ship analysis and start dissecting this ship one layer at a time, starting with the armor layout. And again, there's really nothing to write home about here. This is essentially the Nurnberg, okay, up at tier 7. You're going to have this 16mm nose, 16mm ass with a 25mm deck, and a massive citadel. Yeah, this thing will eat citadels just like the Nurnberg. You will even be presenting a target like this to the enemy, and yet a battleship shell will go right through your ass and citadel you. This ship is notorious for blowing up. And again, that notoriism carries on up to tier 7 here with the 44 variant. It will 100% eat citadels. You have to be conscientious and utilize island coverage and smoke screen to your advantage in order to be able to farm freely without threat of enemy battleships nuking you. Again, they could still blind fire smoke screen. I'm not saying they can't do that or won't do that, but again, it's going to allow you a little bit more survivability as you can now create your own cover rather than relying on actual islands throughout the map. Survivability is 27,700 with a 7% torpedo protection reduction or whatever. Yeah, again, not great. It is a light cruiser at tier 7 based on a tier 6 light cruiser. Okay. Artillery, and this is where we start getting into the bread and butter of the Nurnberg. The only reason why you should be buying this ship or, spending the 3,500 doubloons on the Nurnberg 44 are the guns. The 3x3 150 millimeter guns that are reloading in a 9.4 second reload. 180 degree to turn time is that 23.7 seconds. And you have the maximum range of only 14.5. So obviously they've changed and altered a lot of stats of the Nurnberg 44. Obviously the reload time has gone up. This isn't the DPM monster that you're used to down at tier 6. It's more equivalent to like that of the Leipzig, which is a more torpedo flexible cruiser, whatever that is supposed to be. So it's kind of trying to blend the two Nurnberg classes together, the Nurnberg and the Leipzig Nurnberg 44, right? That's kind of what they're going for here. Your standard dispersion values, as far as I can see, again, pretty damn good there. Nothing really to write home about. 2.0 Sigma, again, very, very standard. Your AP DPM is a little bit better than that of the, it's a little bit worse. Actually, it's a lot worse than the Nurnberg, as you are reloading a lot slower than the Nurnberg. I think the Nurnberg has a 6-second reload, where you're bringing in the 9.4 era. Going into the high explosive shells, 1800 damage with a 12% fire chance and a 38 millimeters of armor penetration. And then we go to the armor piercing with 4100 damage. Again, both are coming out of the barrels, the HE and the AP, at 960 meters a second. Now, the HE really is not worth talking about. I mean, you do have that quarter penetration mechanic for the Germans, hooray, but your HE alpha is anemic. That carries true to this ship, same kind of thing. But the second we go to the armor piercing shells, this is where we get, a little bit more interesting. So not only is your damage 4100, but basically on the paper it is identical in stats to the Elbing across the board down the line. Maybe I'll go ahead and showcase a little bar graph showing you exactly what I'm talking about between the Nurnberg 44 Nurnberg and the Elbing, but identical. The only difference between the Elbing shells via the Nurnberg 44 is, get this, nothing. It is identical, 100% identical. You get those improved ricochet angles. You get that penetration at 12 kilometers, matching 196 millimeters, again, which is more than enough penetration to absolutely shellac and citadel enemy cruisers. Battleships, I don't know. It's a little bit different. You have to be really, really close in order to do that. But again, this ship is made for one thing and one thing only, and that is to absolutely slap cruisers down at this tier. Okay. So basically, when you're playing the Nurnberg 44, harness your inner Elbing, because that's basically what you're going to be doing with this ship, especially when it comes to the thinking of shooting enemy cruisers, right? Keep in mind that I think we do have 360-degree turrets here on the rear, which is super nice. And then the one thing that I have to write home about the Nurnberg 44, which can be kind of wonky towards players, is the turret arrangement. We do have the one forward mount turret and we have the 2 rear. I see a lot of people complain about this particular ship when it comes to the turret arrangement, and a lot of people don't like it. But again, this turret arrangement screams one thing and one thing only: kite. If you kite, you're going to have access to 2 of your turrets rather than just one. This is why I see a lot of players do very poorly in their Rune, for example, which is the tier 9 tech line ship in the Hindenburg line, because they're trying to push in and utilize their hydroacoustic search and only have the 1 turret to bear. It's really not worth it. You're better off kiting and playing passive in these ships than being aggressive. That's why, in my opinion, the Rune is a prime candidate for actually dropping the hydroacoustic search and picking up the defensive A fire consumable. But again, when I make it down the line series of the Hindenburg line, I'll go more in depth about that. Just understand that's one philosophy that I like to believe in, because I'm really not pushing in these ships, because they're physically, the design philosophy of the ship is made with, to kite out, not made with pushing in mind, given the turret arrangement on these ships. So please remember that. Moving into the torpedoes, you do have a torpedo launcher on either broadside. I'll go ahead and click it so you see where it's at. It is like the forward mounted here. So again, you do have to expose a decent amount of side, not too much, but you have to expose a decent amount of side in order to get these puppies off. They are traveling at 9.5 kilometer range, doing 14,400 damage with 65 knots and 1.3 detectability range, which I believe is giving us a 7.4 second reaction time. Again, this is a big upgrade compared to that of the Nurnberg, which the Nurnberg has the standard German 6 kilometer torpedoes, and I believe the Leipzig has 10 kilometer torpedoes, but I could be wrong on that, as I'm not pulling it up on my screen. Moving into the, okay, we're going to skip over the AA defense, guys. Just understand your ship has pretty much no AA. Really, the number values aren't worth talking about. Your firing range is only 4.6. You're going to get struck, and you're going to get struck often. Your best tool to not get struck is stay with your allies, to have someone that has better AA support, or smoke up and hope that the CV misses. Okay? Maneuverability, 32 knots with a 720 meter second turning circle radius and a rudder shift time of the 7.6 seconds, guys. Another thing to keep in mind about the Nurnberg 44 is your acceleration values are 28.1 seconds. Okay, to go from no like dead stop to max speed. Concealment on the Nurnberg 44 is clocking in at, I believe, 10.5 detect at sea, which is very, very good. It's almost 2 kilometers better than the Nurnberg, which is 12.2. Pretty damn stealthy. And again, if you take Concealment Expert on your commander, you can get down even further. Though I'm of the belief that you actually won't take Concealment Expert because your concealment is already so good. I mean, yes, it could theoretically be better, but I don't really need to get in closer with this ship, given the fact that I have a smoke screen, I can smoke up. I think I could put those skill points to something else, and I will go ahead and showcase my build later on while we get to the battle review of the or the gameplay, sorry, of the review. So, and then another good thing to keep in the back of your mind is your detectability after firing main guns in smoke is 4.9 kilometers. Okay. So, guys, that is the Nurnberg 44's port analysis. I really do like this ship, guys. I think it's fun. It does suck because if we go about the whole event passes and how much they usually are costing us, usually we're around the 2,500 mark, right? 2,000, 2,500 mark for doubloons. They bumped it up to 3,500, which, again, that is a steep increase for a lot of us, and that could be off-putting, but in my mind, and again, I'm not trying to justify the price increase, but I'm trying to find reasons for why maybe they did what they did. This is a brand new ship. This isn't a recycled premium ship that they're throwing in the event pass. So then there's some of that. So they're going to have to pay for the development process, right? And then there's some other goodies they put within the event pass. So if we look at the event pass, guys, with the second progression line and all that stuff, there's a lot more steel. There's these Santa crates, even though the small ones are kind of meh. They have permanent camo for the Nurnberg 44, destruction. You get a Santa mega crate. Like, there's different stuff that they're giving and they're throwing in there that are usually not common. Usually they are giving us steel, yes, but then a lot of coal, then a lot of boosters. So they are throwing in a little bit more like design heavy stuff. Plus, it's the holidays, so they're trying to prey upon your willingness to spend more. So there's a bunch of other things that they're trying to do. But yeah, guys, I really do like the Nurnberg 44. I think this is a really, really fun ship to play and a really good ship to play overall. I really do think it is worth the 3,500 doubloons. The whole event pass in total, not just the ship, but the whole event pass in total is worth the 3,500 doubloons. So without further ado, let's see what this ship can do in battle. Okay, and here we are in battle with the Nurnberg 44. Of course, we're in a +2, -2 matchmaker as a low-tier, Tier 7 light cruiser. That's always fun. Here's the commander build, and here are the upgrades that I have taken. Now, before I start getting people writing in the comments, because they only watched the first 5 minutes of the video, but have made it all the way here till the battle portion of the video, you're going to remember that I said I do not take Concealment Expert on this ship because I'd rather put those 4 points to something else. And I did do that. Matter of fact, I did do that, and it worked actually very, very well when I am top tier. When I am bottom tier, it is horrendous. Please, please, please take Concealment Expert if you're on the conservative side. And because Tier 7 finds its way into Tier 9s more often than not, you're probably going to want to take Concealment Expert. So I retract that statement. Apologies. I just don't want to go back and edit it because I already did the recording of it. So take Concealment Expert. It's going to be a safer skill, and you're actually going to make use of it a lot when you're lurking around, sneaking around here when you are double up tiered, because of course you would be, because you're a tier 7 cruiser. And Wargaming loves throwing you up into tier 9 games where people are mostly playing, right? Tier 9s, tier 10s, tier super sips, all that kind of stuff. So yes, my little advice here, guys, definitely take Concealment Expert, okay? So I want to get that out of the way first. Also, how about this Ricochet on the Georgia? Bing! Okay, anyways, the Nurnberg 44, what is the talk about her? Well, first, I'm going to highlight the guns, okay? Especially with the armor piercing, because that's the bread and butter of the ship, and this is why you want to buy this ship, because basically you're getting an Elbing on a cruiser hull at tier 7, okay? That with that AP performance. That's why, or hopefully why, you would want to get this ship. Not just because, hey, it's every battle pass. I want to buy every battle pass because that's who I am. If that's you, that's fine. I don't care. You do you. But this ship is very intriguing, especially to me, because it is a newer ship. And oh my god, those improved ricochet angles coupled with that AP penetration at these ranges, it's just a chef's kiss, guys. It really is fun to play because you are guaranteed citadels. I don't know what else to say. Like, if playing battleships frustrates you because you're getting a lot of overpens when you should be getting dev strikes, or if you're playing other cruiser lines and you're getting overpens or just penetrations and not quite those citadels, this is the ship for you. Especially when you're fighting against enemy cruisers, and that's what I want to highlight to you guys. I'm sure there are scenarios and ships where you can citadel them, like enemy battleships with this ship. I've yet to find a scenario where that is possible for me. I mean, I've only played a handful of games so far. I've only played like 5, I believe, in the time of recording this particular video. And I'm going to be playing a lot more because I really do enjoy her. But like I said, I'm sure you could citadel more like lightly armored battleships. I just haven't done it yet. So I'll make sure to potentially write an update on this video if it has happened, which I'm sure it will with this AP pen because it is freaking awesome. Now, I do want to talk about the HE versus the AP. I will shoot almost exclusively armor piercing in this ship. I would say probably 80 to 20, maybe even 90 to 20. The HE just feels so anemic that I really just don't want to switch it and utilize it. And I get actually solid performance out of my armor piercing, whereas HE I'm actually doing less, even with more HE penetrations. Even with over penetrations on the armor piercing, I'm still doing more consecutive damage to enemy ships, especially like enemy destroyers, for example, than I would be if I switched to the high explosive. Obviously, yes, you get shells like that when the guy is fully, ricocheted or fully angled to you with his ass facing you, and you end up just hitting it off his ass and doing no damage, but hey, what are you gonna do? It is what it is. How about this cross map clap from the Pommern? I guess it does pay to have bad accuracy because you do score citadels every now and then. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And yeah, so I happened to find one into my citadel, again showcasing you at 19 kilometers. This ship has a citadel that's massive and can be hit from across the map, so you're just gonna have to be very, very careful, have your head on a swivel, so to speak, and have some situational awareness, and especially know how to utilize that mini-map, because battleships, like you saw there, will take shots at you, because why would they not? You're a floating citadel, okay? Kind of the same treatment you shoot at like the Neptune or the Omaha or the Minotaur. Like, you pretty much are guaranteed citadels if you shoot at them, so that's where people are thinking. And plus, nowadays, we live in a meta where enemy battleships have overmatch, basically point-and-click battleships, and that's just going to happen. I'm not saying the Pommern is that ship, because it certainly isn't, but in regards of shooting at my ship, which is basically, in all intents and purposes, a tier 6 light cruiser, he's essentially turned into a point-and-click battleship. Okay, with 12 guns, how can you miss? Okay. Another thing about the Nurnberg 44 that I have noticed, obviously, is the gun firing angles. I kind of touched on this a little bit in the port analysis because it has that wonky, like 1 and then 2 and 3 turrets in the back. So it has the 1 turret up front, the 2, 3 turret in the back. Kind of a weird turret arrangement. It could be very unnatural for a lot of players to get used to this, myself included back in the day when I originally played this line. Okay, I've been playing this game for almost 10 years, like, I get it. This ship definitely screams kite. You don't want to be pushing in this ship. It physically is built that you are at a massive disadvantage if you happen to push or stay bow in or nose tank. That should be a worst case scenario. You have to do that. You're going to want to play at a kited position, because even if you want to utilize your 2 and 3 turret when you're pushing forward, you're going to have to exposing a lot of broadside, which is going to allow your citadel to be absolutely punished. And destroyers love to shoot at you too, because honestly, if they have decently sized guns. Even if 127 mils, if they're up really close, they can still citadel you right too. So it's like, it's this thing, you're just gonna have to be careful, because you are kind of a floating target. So you have to be careful. Glass cannon is definitely an understatement with this ship, right? I'm actually surprised here the GJ marker didn't shoot his AP into my broadside. I'm actually shocked. I think he could have actually killed me if he had a brain here. Again, there could have been other factors. He could have, like, you know, didn't want to pick it, wanted to disengage. Maybe he was too busy launching his torpedoes. I don't know what it is, but all I know is if I was the GJ marker in this situation, I would have 100% opened up the armor piercing and see what I can do with it, but whatever. Okay. Yeah, so you do have a massive citadel. I've touched on it, so just have to be careful showing that broadside, that just ever so luscious, juicy broadside. Make sure you stay in the pre-kited position, or it's going to be, you're going to be at a significant disadvantage and showcasing way too much broadside just in order to shoot 6 extra guns. Really not worth it. I'll probably flash a gun firing angle or gun angle image up on your screen here in a little bit, so you can kind of see what it's looking like, guys, and it's not very good. And I'll go ahead and show probably the torpedo angle one as well. You are having to show a decent amount of broadside, especially when you're going at the target to launch these torpedoes, so be careful. But it's not as bad as you think. They do fire fairly forward firing, and if you see that when I go against this Colorado down the road here later on in the video, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But one thing that's super nice on this ship is the armor piercing with the guns, and another thing that is super nice is you do actually have that smoke firing, or sorry, not smoke firing, what the hell am I talking about, the smoke screen, short burst smoke screens, which are very, very useful smoke screens for individuals in this game. It's not a team-based smoke at all, it's an individually based smoke. And your ship definitely makes great use of that because it allows such a light, fragile hull to disengage at will, and you get about 3 to 4, maybe 5 salvos off before it dissipates. I think it's like 3 or 4. Also, there is a prime example of Concealment Expert coming into play, because if I didn't take Concealment Expert like I did originally, guess who would have been able to shoot at me right then and there? That's right, the Njord. So thank God I had Concealment Expert, which brings me down to 9.5 kilometers, which is super nice. It allows me to lurk around and sneak into positions and catch broadsides. Unlike the Blucher, for example, that tier 9 dockyard ship that I did a review on ever so long ago, that thing relies on its speed to pick up and gain broadsides, where this thing definitely relies more on its stealth and concealment. So kind of like, you know, pros and cons to various different kind of play styles in order to pick up broadsides, right? But the core identity of the German ship still remains unchanged. You want to use that armor piercing not only to score citadels, especially with this ship at its tier, but to chunk. It's not uncommon to do 7-8K salvos to battleships broadsides, you know, especially when you shoot that upper deck, because of the AP performance and damage on these ships. I do adore German ships a lot, because a lot of people see a lot of battleships see the cruiser icon and they go, oh, I can definitely get away with doing a full bootleg turn, or, you know, 180-degree turn here to get out of dodge, or, you know, full on my turrets, bring all my turrets to bear on these ships, so I can do it. But then they wonder why in about span of 10 seconds they get chunked for almost, you know, 15,000 damage with armor piercing from German ships, and it's like, oh my god, these ships, what are they shooting, right? It's kind of the same idea of like Petropavlovsk. People didn't know originally what that thing could do when it first came out, but they learned, and they learned relatively quickly. So they have a bit of a you know, they made a bit of a name of themselves in this game, those Soviet heavy cruisers. German ships, only those people who know what these ships are capable of. I think the vast majority of players still underestimate the armor piercing performance of these German ships. So just my little take on the vessel, or on I guess the German nation in general, right? Very, very relevant, I think, but again, easily countered by just angling. You know what I mean? So here's a good example of what you don't want to do in a light cruiser with the Nurnberg 44. The Gambia is learning the hard way. You show me flat broadside. With this AP performance, nah, not a chance. You're pretty much going to be sent back to port, you know, relatively quickly if you're going to do stuff like that. You have to respect these guns, especially if you're in a light cruiser. Even if you're in a cruiser in general, heavy cruiser, light, doesn't matter. You got to respect the guns. So that's like my big thing to take about. But here's a good example of those torpedo firing angles like I was talking about previously in the video. You could see, like, they're not terrible, but you still have to show enough, especially on the Nurnberg. It's not like a phenomenally tanky hull at all, because it's not. It's a freaking glass canoe. You're exposing enough broadside where you're going to get punished. So you have to be careful, right? You just don't have the armor to be showing that much broadside still. And that's really not that much if you think about it, right? Moving into my final thoughts of the Nurnberg. Do you pick this shit up? Do you pick this ship up? Yes, you do. I think it's a great ship. For 3,500 doubloons, it's awesome. But here's the caveat with what I'm going to say. Okay, do you spend the 3,500 doubloons on the Nurnberg 44 and the Battle Pass in general, or do you take those 3,500 doubloons, or do you put it into like what 2 or 3 Santa Mega crates? Here's my thing. If you're a betting man, probably gonna take the Santa crates. But if you like to know what you're buying before you get it and don't want to take a chance, get the Nurnberg 44. Tier 7 is a great tier. It's an excellent crew trainer. You could theoretically put your destroyer captains on the Elbing line on this ship too. You know, just saying, right? A lot of the skills are the same that you would take. Even though, again, with the commander rework, sorry, doesn't really apply anymore. That's like 5 years ago. But you could do that if you want to bounce commanders, and if your Elbing commander is 21-point commander, you get a 21-point cruiser commander on this thing. You just have to retrain it. Or sorry, you don't have to retrain it because it's a premium ship is what I'm trying to say. So you do have that at your disposal. It's a premium ship. It's going to earn premium income. So it's like, you know what I mean? Weigh the pros and the cons here. I really have enjoyed this ship, and I think a lot of you guys out there, especially the viewers on my channel, will really enjoy this ship too. It's fun because it allows you to do things to enemy ships that a lot of cruisers at this same tier just really can't do as reliably and effectively. Because this thing fully goes and fully invested in the guns. That is what this thing is. Fully invested in the guns. And again, you saw with my commander build, here's like I don't even know what this commander skill is on the bottom of my screen. Like, it's the one where you put yourself in bad situations. If there's more enemy ships in your standard base firing range, you get like a dispersion increase. I guess decrease if you think about it. You get better accuracy, is what I take on this ship, because why not? You only have 14.5 whatever kilometer range, so that's already short as it is, and usually you're going to be up in the fray, so to speak, because you have the smoke, because your range is shorter anyways. You really make a lot of use of that captain skill, and I would highly recommend taking that commander skill. But yeah, all in all, guys, it's a blast of a ship. Yes, the Nurnberg ship model isn't that great, like whole, but it doesn't matter when these guns are just so rewarding and so much fun to play. I think you guys will really enjoy the Nurnberg 44, and I cannot recommend this ship enough. Especially for the 3,500 doubloon costs for the event pass, because not only are you getting the Nurnberg 44, but you are also getting a bunch of other goodies in that event pass, which kind of makes it worth it, in my opinion. So I really do enjoy this ship. I'll leave you with the post-battle screen here. But like always, guys, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you have fun out there and enjoy your holiday season. Have a good one, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.